Kia ora Anita, kia ora koutou everyone. He honore, he karoria ki te atua, he maunga rongo ki te whenua, he pakaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa, ko ruahine te pai maunga, ko Manawatu te awa, ko Mori, toko hoa rangatira, ko Brianna, rātou ko Olivia, ko Bethany, o ku tamariki, ko Lauren, toko ingoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Bonjour, hello, really nice to connect with so many of you once again. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here right now. I invite you to switch everything else off, grab the notes if you haven't already. The link is in the chat for this session, and just really focus in because we're going to be talking about boosting your resilience, and when has it ever been more important. So I just open with a blessing on all of us to share that I grew up in the Manawatu looking out on the Ruahine Ranges. This is my little whānau here. This is actually the view out my window. We're on a lifestyle block in just out of Ashurst. And so this is a little bit of native bush, which I love. And my vision is to equip and inspire you to truly boost both your health and happiness for life. And my ultimate goal is to create a positive ripple. If there's just one thing that you can take away today, I hope that you can implement that for yourself and that can flow on to help others around you as well. So just so that I know, we're going to use the chat today and it's going to be a really interactive session. So just invite you to type a yes or no in the chat. Have you been to one of the other sessions with me earlier? Really interested just to know, have you been to some of the sessions? Oh, lots of yeses in there, yeses and nos. Oh, some of you have been to both of them. Good on you. Wonderful. Oh, well, welcome. It's so nice to have you all here. Thank you. Perhaps just to do some little introductions around the country, can you just type in where it is that you are connecting in from? Go ahead and just share that in the chat. Oh, and thank you for the feedback. Glad that you found those last sessions really helpful. Oh, and as you can see, we have people from all around the country. So wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much. There are notes for the session today, so I'll invite Brianna just to add those in the chat again once more. Thank you. And feel free to download them. They are fillable online, or you can also print them out if you prefer, or just take notes. Just so we can make the most of Zoom. Most of us are fairly familiar with it now, but just wanted to check that you know how to switch between gallery and speaker view mode, and also invite you to put your screen into side-by-side mode. So to do that, head to the top where there's a green, you are viewing Lauren Parsons' screen, click on view options and click side-by-side mode. And then you'll find that I'll be on one side, the slides on another, and there's a vertical bar. If you hover your mouse over that vertical bar, you can actually move it at any point. So if you're getting bored with the slides or you're getting bored with me, you can make us bigger or smaller as you go. So hopefully that works okay. Give me a thumbs up in the reactions if that works for you. To do that, just click on the smiley face or the three dots. If you're on a different device, you might just swipe sideways or find three dots. But you can use reactions during the session to just be a non-verbal feedback. We'll be using the chat. So if you've just joined, feel free to introduce yourself and where you're from. And just invite you to mute, unmute, and stop video if you'd like to at any point. Although you're very welcome just to sit in and have your video off today and just relax at your end. So we are recording the session. You'll be able to catch the replay, and I'm going to present from now till around about 1, and then the final half hour is a chance for you to ask your questions. So really looking forward to hearing your questions. If you want to add them in the chat at any point, just put a Q and a dash, and we'll come to those at the end. All right, so I just wanted to not tell my whole story because many of you that have been here have heard it before, but just a really quick recap is that I grew up as the shy, unsporty kid. I hated PE class. I was scared of PE. But somehow when I went to university, a friend dragged me along to a step aerobics class, and I kept going for a while, and after a while they said, if you want to be an instructor, just come and see us afterwards. So I did. And that got me started into my career in health and wellbeing. And I went from totally lacking confidence in myself to being able to discover this new way to boost not just my physical well-being, but really it flowed on to every other aspect of my life. So today I want to share with you some key tools that you can implement in your life. But just to fast forward from that, my background, I went from becoming a personal trainer to being a lecturer at the New Zealand College of Fitness. So I taught personal training, anatomy, physiology. I then got qualified as a life coach to help people with the mindset side of things. Started speaking to groups about some unique ideas I have around movement, around nutrition. I brought out my book, Real Food, Less Fuss, and created 5 Live Well principles, which we'll talk about shortly. And so now what I love to do is to speak at conferences and in-house and help people thrive, because I really believe that everyone deserves to thrive. And we know when individuals are thriving, that flows on to benefit everyone around them. And I don't know if you watch TED Talks already. If you don't, head to TED.com. I was really privileged to deliver one in New York a few years ago. So I'll chat about that in more detail today. Before we dive into any tips or ideas, though, I just also want to recap over this thing called the knowledge action gap. And for those that have been at my previous sessions, I invite you to think about, have you had a chance to close the knowledge action gap? Because there's always this gap between what we could do or perhaps should do, and then what we do day to day. And so my goal is to help you to bridge that gap so that you can actually take action on things that you know that you perhaps could do to boost your resilience, to boost your well-being. Now, I want to start with this as well because it's critically important, because what I've heard may not be new. Just like when you're talking to some of your clients, they may have some sort of rough idea of the advice that you are giving them. But what's really key is that I hope to unlock ways to help you close the knowledge action gap by giving you really amazing time-saving ways to integrate things into your life, and perhaps remind you of things that you might not have tried out. So my 5 live well principles are to uplift your thoughts, to have an attitude of gratitude, to focus on what you want, to nourish your body with whole real food, full of fiber and vitamins and phytochemicals. It's going to fuel how you feel and fuel your mental well-being, to invigorate. And so one of my philosophies there is to snack on exercise and just 4 minutes a day, to strengthen your body, your mind, your resilience, and to restore, to keep everything in balance. So in the notes, you've got all of these 30 pillars there, so don't panic or feel like you've got to write them down. I know there's a lot of detail, but really this is about taking that holistic approach to well-being, which is so critical. And today, specifically, we're looking at it through a resilience lens. And we know that the most successful and resilient people in the world practice daily habits that support optimal health. So I invite you on the chat to take a guess for me. There's one word on that slide that for me is the most important word in that phrase. Can I invite you just to go ahead, type in the chat, just take a guess. Which word do you think it might be that I think is the most important? And there are lots of great words there, lots and lots of great words actually. Got some guesses coming in, fantastic. Okay, resilient, routines, daily, practice, routine, successful. Very good. I think actually it was perhaps the most highly voted one for today. It's that little word right in the center of the page. Because for me, the most important thing is to have daily practices that you integrate into your life, that you, as I say, close the knowledge action gap on. And so that's what I hope to share with you today, some ways to have daily practices that you stick to. So what is resilience? Well, resilience, the definition for it is that it's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. And what's interesting is it's also the ability to be able to, I can't quite see right now, I want to get the wording right now, the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape, or elasticity. And I know that is about an object, but I think that's critical for us as humans to think that way. Resilience isn't about being stoic and firm. It's not about being a hard stick that's going to just snap. It's actually about having flexibility, being able to bend out of shape and then come back to your routines. So today I have 4 keys for mental resilience and 3 keys to help you remain physically resilient and strong. Let's dive in. These 4 keys, first of all, looking at your mental resilience, because this is critical. Number 1, and there's space for you to add this in your notes or encourage you to take your own notes. Number 1 is to focus on what you can control. Now, I told you I'd share something today that you might have already heard somewhere along the lines, right? But let's just focus on this in terms of our resilience. So the thing is that whatever you focus on increases. Have you noticed this in life? Whatever you focus on increases. And so it's critical when we think about mental resilience for us to be able to reset our focus. Because when you think, if you had a blank piece of paper and you drew a big circle and you thought about all the things that are outside of your control, just picture all the things that are outside of your control right now. Decisions that the government makes, laws that get enacted, what the weather is doing, how other people respond, how other people react, what other people do. All of those things are outside of your control, and yet sometimes they really affect us. And then you could also draw in the center of the circle, what are the things that are within your control? Now think of what comes to mind there. What do you do in the moment? What do you choose to read, to listen to watch, to eat, to do? Where do you go? When do you go to bed? All of the things that are really your self-determinants. What are the things that you can control? And then actually in between that, there's also this nuance, that there's also this middle sphere, and that is the things that perhaps not fully within your control, but they're not fully out of your control either. And that is called your circle of influence. And so it's really powerful. The more time you spend focusing on what's within your control and what's within your influence, and you understand what fits in each of those categories, it can allow you to let go of wasting a whole lot of mental energy, worrying about, talking about, blogging about, reading about, discussing all the things outside of your control. Because I think that's one of the most draining things we can do right now. And we're seeing a lot of that going on. We're seeing a lot of things going on online and social media, even conversations. When I've been out socially lately, I've said, okay, can we just stop talking about COVID now, like for the next half hour? Because it seems like the conversation just keeps coming back to it. And perhaps I'll try and avoid focusing too much on it right now, because actually everything I'm sharing is relevant right now, but not because of COVID. We should always be looking after our resilience. So I wanted to share a story, and some of you may have been at one of the other sessions where I shared this, and it's just so relevant, it's really worth recapping. It's about a young man who was living in San Francisco, and he was in his early 20s, he was young and fit, and he had everything going for him. He felt like that. Like anyway, he had a great job as a cable car gripman on the Golden Gate Bridge. He had a beautiful girlfriend. He just piloted his first solo flight in an aircraft, and he also had a brand new motorcycle. And this one summer's day in 1971, he was cruising down a 4-lane highway on his motorcycle, feeling like the king of San Francisco, when unfortunately a laundry truck turned in front of him, cutting him off and causing an accident. And during the accident, the fuel cap of his motorcycle came off. And so he ended up being engulfed in a ball of flames that was 10 foot high. He was so hot that they could not touch him for minutes. When they did, they rushed him to hospital, and they discovered that he had sustained burns to over 65% of his body. So he was there in hospital, literally fighting for his life, because the stats were not good back in 1971 to even survive those sort of injuries. But he fought back, and he managed to defy the odds. And he now lives with a severely disfigured face, with stumps for fingers, and he's also paralyzed and in a wheelchair. And you might think that someone like this would just go and sit in the woe is me corner and just hide away from life. But what he's actually done is he's gone on to become an international keynote speaker. His name is W. Mitchell, and he's traveled the globe sharing the message of his book, which is, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And there's one thing I love in the book where he shares, before my accident, there were 10,000 things that I could do. And after my accident, there are only 9,000 left. And I get to choose if I'm going to focus on the 1,000 things that I've lost, or if I'm going to focus on the 9,000 I have left. And I think it's such an inspiring message and such a great reminder that we always get to choose what we focus on. Okay, and remember, we get more of what we focus on, because your brain doesn't hear the word don't. So when you say, oh, I don't want to feel so tired, or I don't want to fail, you tend to have more of those negative outcomes. So we need to focus on what we want. We need to focus on what we can control. And we need to focus on what we are grateful for and thankful for, even in dark moments like Mitchell has experienced. So I really encourage you, perhaps you might like to, after this or right now, to take a piece of paper to draw those circles and actually maybe add the nuance of the circle of influence. Think about what's within your control, what's within your influence, and what isn't. What are the things that you can control? What are the things that you still have that you can be thankful for? Because the other key thing that W. Mitchell talked about that helped him get through his recovery, which was long and excruciating, is that he said the power of gratitude was so key. Because gratitude has this power to turn what we have into enough. And it's one of the most practical ways that you can reset your focus. Your brain can't be in two places at once. So as soon as, if you're feeling down about something, you're feeling stressed about something, something is affecting your resilience or your mental well-being, as soon as you cast your mind to what you are grateful for and thankful for in the moment, it brings your mind to a different place than where you were. moments ago. Okay, and there's a balance to this, and I want to acknowledge as well, it's also important to acknowledge how you're feeling. There's a really great tool, which I might have some time for in the Q&A, I might have a play with this tool. It's called the Emotional Culture Deck. It was created by Jeremy Dean, ex-professional cricketer in Wellington, and I'm just a facilitator using it. And it's such an amazing tool that allows you to really clearly articulate how you're feeling. And when you go through a process of describing how you're feeling and how you want to feel, and so, the cards are the way that we do that with this process. When you can articulate how you're feeling and acknowledge your feelings, that's actually really key to helping you work through them as well. So I might come back to that a little later. So choose to focus on what you can control and choose to reset your focus. That's number one. Number two is to monitor what you feed your thoughts, because that's actually going to fuel number one as well, how your mental resilience. Monitor what you feed your thoughts, and it's particularly important to limit your consumption of media. It was a little bit tricky when I had to share this to OMD recently. They're a media group, and I was like, oh, a bit awkward, but this is so vital for all of us to be aware of what are the sources of media that we are listening to, that we're watching, not just social media, all types of media, but particularly social media. I would say be very aware of its effect on us. I'm not saying log off from everything, but perhaps it's taking steps like choosing to log off from having social media on your phone and mobile devices, have it only on your laptop so you can be intentional when you use it. It's really critical that you think about if your day is filled with listening to negative news on repeat, it's just going to fuel how you're feeling. Okay, and often it is sensationalized and it is dramatized to be catchy and to hook us in to listen. So I really encourage you to limit and be, for me, I just tend to not really watch the news. I'm not saying you have to do that. We need to stay informed, but perhaps you choose one reliable, credible news source and you choose to listen into that once a day, whatever that is. Perhaps it's you want to read it in print. Perhaps you want to listen to it in audio. Perhaps it's on the radio. Perhaps it's TV, but just have enough to keep yourself informed. And on the flip side, also ring fence time for some uplifting content. Okay, if you don't have uplifting content coming in and you're just drowning in all this negativity, it's really challenging to maintain your mental resilience. So what are the podcasts you're listening to? What are the TED Talks that you're watching or listening into? What are the inspiring articles that you're reading? What are you soaking your brain in? Okay, because your brain is like a sponge. Your brain just soaks in whatever you expose it to. And if your brain is if a sponge, say, is sitting in a bowl of dirty water, that sponge is going to be full of dirty water. So we've got to both restrict negatives, influences, and choose to fuel our thoughts with something positive. So I start every morning with my morning stretch routine, which I talked about in another session. And then I have 20 minutes, that's my learning time. Either listen to a podcast or watch a TED Talk. And it's just amazing to have that uplifting time. I subscribe to TED Daily, so I just put aside all the talks that I want to listen to. So I encourage you, if you don't already do that, sometimes early morning is the best time when you can ring fence time for that input, positive input. Number 3 is to ask yourself, is this helpful or is this harmful in the moment? Is this helpful or is this harmful? And it's a really key question to ask yourself and be aware of. I want to share a story about Dr. Lucy Hone. You may have heard about her. She was based down in Christchurch and she was studying positive psychology over in the States, actually with Martin Seligman, who's like the founding father of positive psychology. And when she came back to New Zealand, she returned to Christchurch just before the Christchurch quakes. And she thought that, okay, this is going to be my calling. This is going to be what I am called to do, to help people to boost their resilience through the quakes. But sadly, as she shares in her TED Talk, sadly, when she was getting ready with her family and several other families to travel down to Lake Ohau to cycle the Alps to Ocean race, her daughter, Abby, beautiful 12-year-old daughter, in a split-second decision decided to just jump in a car with her friend and her friend's mum, who was a close friend of Lucy's. And as they were all traveling down south, unfortunately, another car went straight through a stop sign and killed the 3 of them instantly. So Lucy Hone was left facing parental bereavement, which the research shows us is the most difficult form of grief that we could ever experience in life, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And so Lucy said that she actually had to face up to this because all of the support that she was getting was telling her, the experts were telling her that she should just write off the next 5 years of her life. she didn't really like that news. So she decided to conduct an experiment and to try out the tools and techniques that she'd been given in terms of positive psychology in her own life, in her darkest moments. And this key message around choosing what is helpful or harmful was one that she taught me. She said that, it could be late at night and she'd be sitting there just looking through photo albums of her beautiful daughter, Abby, and just wallowing in grief. And she had to ask herself, is this helpful or is it harmful? And in the moment, she realized this is not helpful at all. And so she decided to put the albums away and to go to bed and get some good sleep. So I invite you to think about what is helpful in the moment for you. Jot down some ideas right now in your notes. What are the small things that you can program into your day that you find lift you up, bring you joy, make you feel calm and centered, make you feel grounded? I once had a client who was going through some challenges in her workplace. She was manager of a large retail store, and she said she really loved spending time in nature and really loved walking barefoot on grass, for example, but she never did it. And she was going through all these challenges at work and just getting more and more stressed. And so we just talked about a 30-second intervention where she would just walk down across her back lawn, touch the hydrangeas, and then walk back and up the deck just while the kettle was boiling. And she said that that helped her to literally feel grounded to start her day. And it really affected how she felt. So then she started turning up to work in a different way. And very quickly, the challenges that have been going on with this insubordination at work actually resolved themselves. And she felt so much more grounded within herself. So I invite you just to pick what's one thing that could be your daily non-negotiable, something that you do that's helpful in the moment. And I might share some ideas as we go forward as well to give you some ideas. I think before we talked about shifting your posture, laughter, breathing, all of these things, right? And then number 4, last one around mental resilience, is to avoid what's called catastrophizing. It's a great word, isn't it? So catastrophizing, what that is, it's jumping to the worst possible conclusion and then following that to the next one and the next one and the next one and taking it very far. So for example, for me, last year, there I was, I'm a speaker. Primarily, I was speaking at conferences and big events, and in an instant, I had all of my overseas bookings cancelled. No international travel happening, no conferences. And I could have jumped to the conclusion of going, oh my goodness, that was a third of my income for the year, and that's just been wiped out. Oh my gosh, my business is going to fail. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh my goodness, we've just bought a new house. Like, are we no longer going to be able to meet the repayments? What if I lose my house? Oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'm going to lose my house. Oh, and then if I lose my house, what's going to happen to my relationship? Like, oh my goodness, what if I lose my husband? What if I never see my kids again? Like, obviously, none of that happened. I don't even like really repeating that, but can you see what I mean? This is what catastrophizing is. This is where we jump to one negative solution or negative outcome, and we then take it very, very far. And you might see clients doing this. You might see friends or family members doing this. You might notice this for yourself now. It is really easy to fall into this trap of catastrophizing and to start going down these long paths of things that are really very unlikely to happen. The thing to understand is that catastrophizing makes us respond with fear. This is why we see people fighting over toilet paper in supermarkets. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek image there. But catastrophizing always is driven out of fear. And there are 2 other F words that can help you to overcome that. And I say them as F words because it hopefully catches your attention and this will stick with you. And so that is to remind yourself of the facts and to have faith. And whenever we're catastrophizing, we are focusing on suppositions and possibilities. So we need to remind ourselves of the facts. And then we need to have faith. When you think big picture, when we zoom out, we've got to remember that as a species that we have been through tough times. We've been through global recessions, we've been through pandemics before. We have actually survived and we've gone on to thrive, and we will do that again. So we need to, 1, remind ourselves of the actual facts. And again, this is a lot of what you're doing with your clients, I'm sure, and also have faith that things will work out. Is that okay? So any thoughts, comments, questions, please do just type something in the chat for me. How is that? Are you keeping up? Give me a yes if that is helpful so far. And or any thoughts, any comments, any questions. Or I can see some people are telling me what their things are, like going for a 10-minute walk. Yes, it's often small things, like choosing every day to get out for 10 minutes with your sunglasses off and get sunlight into the retina of your eyes. which we'll talk about shortly actually, beneficial in lots of ways, but can you make it your daily non-negotiable and make it loud? Be like, okay, everyone, I'm going for my break now, if you're back in the office. Okay, set the example for others around you. Okay, wonderful. Lots of yeses in the chat. No comments or questions yet. We'll come to those later then. So let's flip over to talking about some keys to help you remain physically and emotionally resilient and strong. And of course, the two interact and overlap. If you're physically resilient and strong, it's going to flow on to everything else. So we're going to talk about sleep, food, and movement. Just a spoiler alert for you there. So let's talk about sleep for a start. And this is a real favorite topic of mine because so often I talk to people and they're kind of aware of some of these things, but often we don't understand all of the levers that we can pull that actually have a huge influence on our sleep. So actually I invite you in the chat again, just to type in for me, if you can guess, because adequate sleep gives us so many benefits. I've got a dozen of them here that I'll show you in a moment. Can I invite you to type in the chat for me, take a guess at what are the positive benefits of getting adequate sleep. Go ahead and just type single word or lots of words into the chat. Let's see how many ideas we can get coming through. What does sleep actually do for us? What can sleep do for you? Okay, so it can repair, yep, healthy weight, help you to focus, refresh, help you to cope with what life throws at you, yep, feeling refreshed, improve concentration, absolutely, helps memory, yes, it does. Help your skin, I don't even think I've got it on there, but yes, helps to give you perspective. Isn't everything better after a good sleep? Helps you to regulate your emotions, yeah, so it actually boosts your emotional intelligence, yeah, anything else? So it helps you improve your concentration, your decision making, makes you happier. Yes, it does. Absolutely. Helps to rejuvenate. Any other ideas? I love seeing all these come through. Scrolling back up because I missed some. Okay, so it restores the mind and the body. Absolutely. And it helps you lose weight. Yes. So hopefully some of those have piqued your interest. So these are some of these 12 ways. It helps to boost your immunity. I don't think we had that in there, but hey, this is important right now, isn't it, people? So it actually helps to boost your immunity. During the times when we sleep and we have the highest lymphocyte levels, when our body repairs and restores, it helps to reduce stress or the sensation or feeling of stress. It reduces physical pain in your body, helps you maintain a healthy weight, boosts your mood, helps to actually help you to help the human race continue, okay? We actually improve our reproductive potential. We even extend our lives, makes us more creative, increases our focus, helps to improve your memory, okay? People got that one. Helps you to be more accurate and to work more quickly. So these are ones that really affect us, especially in a workplace setting. Imagine all of these things. So the thing is that often we take sleep for granted. We think it's just a nice to have, but it's so critical. I'd even go as far as saying that if you're turning up to work without having an adequate night's sleep, it's a bit like turning up drunk or on drugs. And I don't know if we can legislate against that. You know, thou shalt not have too few hours sleep before you work here, but it really is critical in terms of the cognitive impairment that a lack of sleep gives us. It has a huge effect. So if you want to find out more about that, I encourage you to check out Matthew Walker's TED Talk. It's called Sleep is Your Superpower. So I'll send you the link to that. I'll send you some follow-up info later on, or feel free to Google it. Sleep is Your Superpower. And it's a fantastic talk where he talks about all the reasons why we need sleep. He actually only gives 2 tips of what to do about it. I'll give you a few more today. But he talks about this great global experiment that we have twice a year, all around the world. And the experiment is called daylight savings. Have you heard of that? And he talks about how the day after daylight savings is the day when we have the highest rate of motor vehicle crashes, the highest rate of heart attacks, and sadly, the highest rate of suicide. All that just from losing 1 hour's sleep. Okay, and we know that the relationship between lack of sleep and mental health is huge and significant, and particularly significant for teenagers, for young adults, as well as for all of us. So I encourage you to watch that talk, especially watch it with your husband, your wife, your family members, your teens, because it's got just layer upon layer of reasons why you really, really need sleep. And he does talk a lot about reproductive health. And yeah, I won't go into that because I don't want to offend anyone or make you squeamish, but it's a really engaging and memorable talk, I'll say that for it. So some of the tips that he shares, one is that we need to really focus on sleep regularity. So I really recommend getting to sleep at a similar time and waking up at the same time if possible. So again, if you're following in your notes, feel free to add those along in your notes. So getting to bed at a similar time, that may change from time to time, just depends on what else you might have going on in the day. But getting up at the same time is really critical. And that's because your body clock wants you to be able to upregulate hormones like cortisol and proteins like PER, so that your body knows, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time and I'm going to be nice and alert. If you keep chopping and changing your wake time, then your body clock doesn't really know when to upregulate those hormones and proteins. So you can more often wake up feeling groggy. The second one is to get up without hitting snooze. Now, I won't ask for a show of hands here, but I used to be a chronic snoozer, and it's just one of the worst things we can do, one of the worst ways to start your day. Because those 9 minutes of quasi sleep where you're trying to get back to sleep, but you're also trying to wake up and be alert and awake, it really isn't helpful. It's better to actually set the alarm at the time you need to get up and then to get straight up. And I think I might have shared for you that for me, it was life-changing when I started to set my alarm on the other side of the bedroom. And my alarm is my phone. Now, it's not ideal. It's great even if you have an alarm clock. But for me, it's my phone. It's on the far side of my room plugged in, which means I have to physically get up out of bed to turn it off. So I'm much more likely to stay up. So that's my little hack for you around that. So try to avoid hitting the snooze and get up consistently. And I'll just preempt a question. I often get asked about waking at the same time each day. Often it's like, Lauren, what about weekends? So if you're wondering that, what I would say is it's great if you can get up within 45 minutes, maybe to an hour of the same time. So if you normally get up at 6:30 every weekday, getting up by 7:15, 7:30 at the latest on the weekend is great, just so that you can extend your weekend really. You've got that beautiful weekend to enjoy. Yep, you can jump back in bed if you want and read the newspaper or read a book or whatever, but waking at the same time is really powerful for your body clock. And the last one is to avoid sleep during the day if possible. And there was a recent little 3-minute TED Talk, infomercial sort of short mini TED Talk on this that Matthew Walker put out, and essentially replicated what I would say, which is if you've actually had really poor sleep or interrupted sleep the night before, then potentially get a sleep cycle, which is about 45 minutes into your day. But ideally, avoid sleep during the day. However, if you want to have a little mini naps of less than 20 minutes, maybe where you don't even actually sleep, but just rest, recline your body, put your feet up, close your eyes, and for 20 minutes, perhaps set a timer to make sure you do wake in 20 minutes if you do drift off. But just having even 5, 10, 15 minutes to recharge during the day is powerful without necessarily sleeping. And it's all because you want to protect your body's natural circadian rhythm to be working at its best. And the key thing we want is to have that high melatonin secretion in the evening, because melatonin is that hormone that helps us get to sleep and stay asleep. We want to get into that deep sleep cycle. And then as you see at the bottom, that cortisol, and there's another protein called PER, we want that to happen so that we wake up feeling alert and awake and alive. Let's talk a little bit about sleep hygiene. And I do have a more extensive topic that I do around sleep where I go a little bit more in depth into, what about nighttime waking, and spend a bit more time on this. Happy to share that with you at a later date. But this is a real quick whistle-stop tour, kind of a tip of the iceberg session today. So sleep hygiene, have you heard of this? Do you know some of the keys? Again, just type in the chat for me. What are some of the keys to sleep hygiene? Some people say no, they haven't perhaps heard of it. Nothing to do with cleanliness. Oh, and here we go. Yeah, I've just see a comment in there. Thanks, Benjamin. Parents of young kids. Yeah, very tricky. And I can relate, having 3 young children, can relate to the difficulty. It is excruciating and difficult when you have really interrupted sleep. So it's, again, about managing that as best you can, training as much as you can. There's so many resources around, but obviously it is a very real challenge, and acknowledge that. So we've got some people putting some ideas in here. So limiting media, screens. Yep, great. So screens is a really key one. There are a few others as well. So let me go through them. So cool is one key in terms of sleep hygiene. Having a cool bedroom. So ideally 18 to 19 degrees is the ideal sort of temperature to be at. And that is important because your body temperature, your core body temperature, needs to drop by about 1 degree Celsius to be able to get to sleep, which is why it's always more challenging to get to sleep on a hot summer's night than it is on a cold night. So with summer coming up, be aware of this. Dark really critical as well. And again, with longer light hours, it's worth investing in blackout curtains because they've done studies where they had people in blacked out rooms, and they've had people in a room that was mostly dark but had pinpricks of light, such as what you have for a phone charging or an alarm clock. And what they found was that between the two groups, both groups said that they felt that they had a good sleep, but it was actually the people that had been in the totally blacked out room that had a better quality sleep, deeper sleep, longer REM cycles. So actually investing in blackout curtains, really powerful. Third one is comfortable. So again, these are in your notes if you're following along. And comfortable might seem quite obvious, but it is critical, you know, to invest in quality linen, sheets, bedding, those sorts of things. When I travel, I often take my pillow because I find hotel pillows are so big. It's like, you know, sleeping on a, I don't know how people sleep on them. Maybe I have a small neck, but just making sure you are comfortable. And then the fourth one might seem unusual or almost like, well, obviously I do that, Lauren. But when I say clearly associate your bedroom with sleep, the reason I mention this is that I know that a lot of people sometimes do other things. Might be that you're eating in bed, that you're watching movies in bed, that you're working on your laptop, that you're checking your emails, that you're on social media. So if we are associating a whole lot of other things with our bed and bedroom, it's harder for your body to know, okay, this is my place to come and relax, right? It's been said that the only two things we will really want to do in bed is sleep and sex, right? And the thing is that if we can clearly associate your bed and your bedroom as that place where you go to relax, to unwind, and for intimacy, then that improves the quality of those things. And as many of you said in the chat, one thing that will help both of that is also making it a technology-free zone, okay? And I have full disclosure, I do, as I mentioned, still plug my phone in as my alarm, but it's on the far side of my room. It's up on my top of my dresser, so that once I've plugged it in there, I don't touch it again. And that's really key because having a phone beside your bed is that huge temptation to be on it last thing at night. Oh, I'll just check that thing. I'll just look that thing up. I'll just message that person. You know, or I have clients who first thing in the morning, the first thing they do is pick up their phone, and at 5:30, they're into emails, negative news, notifications, updates, alerts, you know, before they've even got their feet on the ground. So really critical. You can charge your phones in other rooms is really powerful. And also do an audit. See if you can clear the space near your head. Do an audit beside your bed, especially if there are any radio emitting devices, and even through the headboard, through the wall behind your headboard as well. Now recognize that lockdown has become particularly tricky, and someone just said this in the chat as well. Thanks, Nicole. If your bedroom has also become your office, boy, that's a really tricky association to deal with, because it's not at a conscious level, but at a subconscious level, if your bedroom is also your workspace, it's really difficult to switch off. So I'd recommend, if that is you, to have a way that you create separation. Maybe it's by closing everything down, clearing that desk away. I used to, when we lived in Canada, I had not only had my desk in my bedroom, but also with the time zones, I was often working late in the evening in Canada because I just wanted to get this off, because otherwise it'll be another whole day before New Zealand will get it. And so I got into a really bad habit of having that desk in our bedroom. It's just the way it was. But I got into a habit of making sure I shut the screen and even put a blanket over it for a period of time. Anything you can do to create a distinction is powerful. Nice. So just to bang on a little bit more about technology, because this is so important, I'd encourage you to have rules for yourself. Now, the great thing about these rules is you get to set them, but have rules for yourself of when and where you access your phone. Just think back to the 1970s. We did not have cell phones in our pockets that were literally contacting us to the entire world. We did not have the same level of information overload. We did not have the same level of, you know, feeling like we've constantly got to be on. Okay, one other tip is don't ever actually put email on your phone. I know I'm going to probably, I don't know, make some eyes roll or again, anything that I share with you today, these are all optional ideas, but I really encourage you to create more separation. Have rules for yourself. Use airplane mode, flight mode at times when you want to be present, let's say with your family. You know, so it might be that you just have a rule that between 5 and 8 is airplane mode time, it's family time, phones are away, you know, or maybe it's when you're at the dinner table, phones are in a basket. We have this rule, and it's annoying at times because I'm like, oh, we just want to look up that thing, or what was that song, or let's look up that fact, let's ask Mr. Google. But we say, well, we'll do that after dinner. So we just make a point of no phones at the table. And my kids are pre-teens, they don't yet have their own phones, but I'm trying to set that example. So limit social media time. I mentioned this briefly before. Not saying no social media time, but I just encourage you to think about how do you feel when you're using it and after you've used it. We know that social media is clearly linked to higher rates of depression and anxiety. There's a huge amount of research around that. You can Google that. And so we just need to be really mindful of that comparison game that goes on, watching other people's highlight reels and their, when we look at other people's feeds, it actually leaves us feeling worse off. So yes, stay connected with your friends and family, but don't let it affect your sleep particularly. One of my clients once said, what else would I do in the evening? Everything that she did was basically screen-based, all the things that she did for fun in the evening. So I encourage you to get back to some hands-on, tactile, fun things that you like to do that perhaps might be knitting or crochet or whittling wood, or I don't know, something that you can do that's actually non-computer based. Reading is great. And also preparing for the morning before you go to bed. Find some non-tech based things you do in that time before bedtime. Use airplane mode overnight, highly recommend. Okay, you'll avoid that 5:30 in the morning getting all the notifications come through issue. Okay, yes, you can switch it on, but choose when that is. It might be after you've had breakfast that you then start to connect with the outside digital world. Okay, you get to set the intention on that. Be clear on that. And also charge your phone in another room. So maybe, especially if you have teenagers, set up a charging station in the living room and get everyone's devices to be there. And you can also set Wi-Fi settings. If you have Wi-Fi at home so it switches off at a set time, you can also use some of those apps to limit your access to certain sites or certain devices access. So do look into that because it is addictive and we can be our own worst enemy. All right, it's probably enough on technology. I love technology. I just think it's like a double-edged sword. We need to wield it carefully. Let's talk about sunlight and setting up your day and the things you can do in your day. Particularly sunlight is a key one in terms of sleep. So getting sunlight into your retina, there's 2 times a day that it's really important to do this. First one is first thing in the morning, okay, because you've got this melatonin and serotonin, they're in that seesaw relationship, remember? And we want that melatonin to be high overnight to help us get to sleep and stay asleep. But then we want melatonin to dissipate and serotonin to soar in the morning because our serotonin level, it's going to drop off naturally during the day. And if it isn't high in the morning to start with, it's going to drop off really quickly. And mid-afternoon, you're going to start craving sweet or carbohydrate-rich snacks because you innately know that carbohydrates boost serotonin levels. So first thing in the morning is really, really key. Sunlight into your eyes. Easier now that we head into summer in New Zealand. The second time is close to midday. So straight after this, make sure you get out for 10 minutes and take your sunglasses off and get outdoors between 11 and 2 every day for some sunlight into the retina of your eye. And what it does is it says, okay, it's the middle of the day right now, so I'm going to make sure I boost Lauren's melatonin at night time and help her get that good sleep that will last through the night. And then the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of sleep is that getting to sleep is a bit like catching a wave. Have you noticed this? So, the wave comes, you start to feel sleepy. And then if you just go and do this, and I'll just go and fold the washing, and I'll just get that ready for the morning, and I'll just do that ironing, whatever it is. Sometimes you then get to bed and you're lying there going, oh, I'm so awake right now. Okay, and it's a bit like, with babies, if you're a parent, you might remember what it's like when we go through all of these hoops that we jump through of, bath time and swaddling and cuddles and story time and prayers and quiet time and maybe a white noise, dim lights. We go through all these different things to help babies get off to sleep. And actually as adults, we're not that different ourselves. So it's great if you can build a strong pre-sleep routine and get that in place even before you need it. So it might be from a certain point in the evening, you turn off all the overhead lights and you just put the lamps on from 9 o'clock, let's say, that you start building things into your routine. So I encourage you right now, I'll give you 1 minute to just jot down maybe 5 or 6 things in that space in your notes that you could do as your pre-sleep routine. This is so critical. Think about, it might be that it's even things like having a shower, maybe have a chamomile tea, whatever it is. Maybe it's actually writing down what you've achieved for the day or planning your top 5 for the next day, okay, like we talked about in the Overcome the Overwhelm session, okay, sort of getting everything out of your brain and out down on paper. Maybe it's listening to music, maybe it's having a stretch, maybe it's writing in the gratitude journal. Just jot down some ideal things that would be your pre-sleep routine. Yeah, and some people are sharing them in the chat. Thank you, I like that. So remember, you get to choose if you want to bookend your day well. You don't always get to choose what happens in the middle of your day, but you can bookend your day well, the start and the end of your day. So this is really critical. And I'll just share one final story on the sleep topic, because I have a program that's called Overcome the Overwhelm. When I first started that, it was actually an 8-module program that I created because I had so many people asking me, like, how do you juggle life like? And so I created this 8-module program, and one module was on sleep. And I was delivering it for a group of leaders, and I was going around asking them, what were their sleep challenges? Was it getting to sleep? Was it waking at night? Was it waking up tired in the morning? And one person, I'll just call her Angela, she said, oh, my sleep's terrible. Yeah, my sleep's terrible, Lauren. Terrible, terrible. She said, I just have insomnia. I just go for nights when I hardly sleep at all. And after 3 or 4 nights of that, I just have to take a sleeping pill because I just can't function. She said, I've tried everything, nothing works. So anyhow, that was the start of the session. I went through things that I've shared and more, much more actually in the session. And we got back together 3 weeks later for the next session. And of course, I started by going around and saying, so how did you go with your sleep? Because this was part of this program, it was all about the accountability. And I was nervous coming around to Angela, and I was like, well, what's she going to say? Because remember, she'd said she'd tried everything, right? And so I said to Angela, how about you? How's it been? And she said, oh, great. Yep, great. Fantastic. Yep, haven't taken a sleeping pill since I saw you. It's been awesome. And my jaw just literally hit the ground. I was like, really? Are you serious? And she just said she'd never actually tried pulling all of these levers together. And it was actually doing all of these things that really made the difference. So I hope that encourages you, that wherever you think your sleep is at the moment, hopefully it can help you improve it. Is that good? Give me a yes if you're still with me. Because sleep, as I say, so key to your resilience. Yes. Alrighty, beautiful. Fantastic. So let's talk about food now. Who else loves food? I certainly love food. And so number 2 is to prioritize great nutrition. And this is, again, such a huge topic, but I'm just going to try and bring this into a little focus for you today. The challenges that often when we are under pressure or external stress or we're busy, it's that time when our nutrition can sometimes slip off, right when we need good nutrition the most, right? So it's confusing though, right? It's confusing when you think about nutrition because there's so much advice out there and there's so much of it that's totally contradictory. Have you noticed this? We used to say that porridge is good for you, and now it's like, well, no, you can't eat oats. And some people might say, well, you should have lots of meat and lots of protein, and others might say, no, you should have a vegetarian or vegan diet. And yes, you should eat cheese. No, you shouldn't eat cheese. Lentils, nuts. No, you can't have legumes. And so it just can go around in circles. And it can reach the point where there's nothing left to eat. Have you noticed this? This is a meme that was going around on social media a while ago. I'm about to eat my vegan, gluten-free, soy-free, antibiotic-free, raw, non-GMO, organic, fat-free, low-carb dinner. And it's ice cubes. So if all of the advice is so contradictory, what do we actually do? Well, I like to take very complex things and break them down to be very simple. So from all of the research that I've done over the last 21 years and taught nutrition, as I say, at the College of Fitness, my whole philosophy of nutrition is these 5 words. So I invite you in the chat. Can you take a guess at what it might be? Just go ahead and take a guess. So if you were to fill in the blanks there, what might you guess? I'm ready to give out some gold stars right now. Here we go. Oh, several people. Julie, Jody, you've got it. And Pen, is it Pen or Penny? Eat real food. That's the top one. What about the second one? It's not actually eat moderately. Well done, the Parsons. Well done, Susan. Eat real food. What's the second one? Any guesses? Yes, Benjamin, you've got it. And Grace, well done. So it's eat real food and eat mindfully. Oh, thank you. Penny rhymes with Jenny. Thank you. Great, good to know. So eat real food and eat mindfully. So what do I mean by that? Well, eat real food is about eating food that looks as natural as possible, as close as possible to its original, what it was, rather than something that's highly packaged and processed. And eating mindfully is about really focusing on what we're doing while we're doing it. The thing is, again, we often multitask eating in our rushed, busy lives. And there's so much power in actually just focusing on what we're doing when we're eating it. It increases our satisfaction, it increases our satiety, which is actually feeling like, yes, I've had a good meal. And so we don't keep going back for more and more and more. So a few quick practical tips for you. I'm not going to go through my whole nutrition. There's again so much I'd love to share about why you want real food. Huge links in terms of our mental well-being, huge links in terms of our mental resilience. We're really literally fueling our brains on all the cells that we eat. So everything is produced from what we eat. So if we're eating a lot of highly processed food, it is going to leave you feeling not great. So we want to eat more real food, but I know that means, oh my goodness, Lauren, that means a bit of cooking. Like, oh, how do I fit that in? I don't have time for that. So I have a few ideas for you. One is to create a freezer library. Now, that may sound unique, but it's this idea that I coined it the freezer library, and that is where you, whenever you cook, you systematically quadruple batch cook. So you cook 4 meals at a time. Not 4 different meals, you just cook maybe 2 big pots of bolognese, or a big curry, or a big soup, a big casserole, whatever it is. And then you can systematically set aside 3 portions to add to your freezer library. And you could start this maybe on a weekend, cook 2 big meals up, and start your freezer library so that you no longer just have boring leftovers, but you've got these amazing meals that are pre-prepared and in your freezer. Because the challenge is when we're busy, we often end up, going for takeaways or something. But now you've got your own takeout that you just take out of your freezer and warm up. And it's going to save you a whole lot of money, because let's face it, takeaways are usually overpriced and going to undernourish you. And it's going to make it so much easier, because if you quadruple batch cook, you only have to cook 2 nights a week, and you can have every other night off cooking. How does that sound? If you are the main chef and food organizer in your house, then I'm sure that hopefully that's helpful. And maybe it's like, oh, light at the end of the tunnel. The other thing is that goes with that is to meal plan, to menu plan or meal plan, to help you avoid decision fatigue of what's for dinner tonight. So when I menu plan, I actually plan out, I don't have a planner here, but I actually plan out, and my plan looks like this. It's like defrost, defrost. Oh, Wednesday night I'm going to cook, defrost, 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 and Sunday night I'm going to cook, something like that. But we've changed it a little bit recently because we've got the kids cooking more as well. I'm trying to get them on board. But the great thing is, if you can plan it ahead, you save a whole lot of money, save a whole lot of time, and you make it so much easier to fit that in. And as I say, stock up your freezer and maybe have some meals to give away. Also, to focus on making your meals nutrient dense, it's really key. So you might have about 10 family favorites that you tend to go through. Even if you just take 1 a week or 1 a month, and you just kind of pimp that meal, like add more veggies, add more fiber, and maybe you make a bolognese, but you add in tons of zucchini and carrots and lentils and onion and beautiful, lots of vegetables into that sauce. You can make that, and again, ideal for freezing, because then you can use it as spaghetti bolognese, as cottage pie, as mince on toast. You can have it in salad taco wraps. So many ideas there. If you can make your normal everyday meals more nutrient dense, so you can just actually shift your nutritional landscape. And then the last one is to start with salad. And this is something I picked up living in France. I did a high school exchange to France, lived there with an amazing host family, and started to adopt some of their ways of living. Not all of them, didn't love the bureaucracy. Some things I love about France, some things I don't love, but the food really was quite extraordinary. And what we did is we learned to start with salad. So like in the image behind it there, we often start with just a mixed salad, but it can even be a simple salad. I might just mention this, because if anyone's interested in more on this topic, I have just actually organised for a reprint of my book, Real Food, Less Fuss, because it had sold out previously. So no pressure, don't want to do a hard sell, but if you're interested, I'll send you the link for this later on as well, because I've got free shipping at the moment. And in here, it's not just a cookbook, it's lots of recipes, but most of all, it's my sensational salad blueprint, it's additives, preservatives, how to eat guilt-free. And here I have what I call my sensational salad blueprint that shows you how to make great salads in 60 seconds or less. And the French often have a single ingredient salad, which is a wonderful way, simple, time-saving, delicious way to get more veggies in. And if there's one thing you can do to boost nutrition, it's to get more veggies in. And I know that isn't like rocket science, or it doesn't sound like it, but it is from all the research that I did. And I spent weeks and weeks and weeks researching into all the data around nutrition. That is the number one thing we can do, that everyone agrees on. There's only 2 things that all the studies agreed on. It's eat more veggies and eat less trans fats. And we should be reducing trans fats. So hopefully those are some practical ideas to help nudge you towards that. And if you want to know more, feel free to check out that book. Also in the book, I talk about 11 keys that I learned from the French, but here I'll just recap 3 of them for you. And that's around really eating mindfully. So the French both respect and love their food. And that was what I discovered, because I went to France, and 6 months into my exchange, I had put on so much weight that my clothes were no longer fitting me. And I can tell you, I was miserable. I can remember my health wasn't great, my skin was terrible. I can recall looking into this closet full of clothes that did not fit me over there, and I didn't have a budget to replace them. thinking to myself, what am I going to do? But everything changed when one day I started to notice how everyone around me was eating differently to me. And, what I noticed was that even when we served the same foods, we had identical canteen lunches served at high school, the way that my friends were eating was different. They were just eating actually what their body needed and not necessarily just finishing everything on their plate because it was there. So it's great to love your food, but also to respect your food. And so the French, from the way that they purchase and store and prepare, they really respect food. And they make meal times a special occasion. I can recall when my host family traveled to New Zealand and we were traveling around doing the touristy thing. There was 12 of us. It was a bit like herding cats. And so it was me, my husband, 2 daughters at the time. My youngest was 9 months old. And we were trying to rush to get up to Kerikeri to see the stone store before it closed. And I said, it's all right, I'll just jump in the back with Olivia, who was 9 months old. I'll just feed her out of her little baby pouch. It's fine. And my host family were horrified. They were like, no, Lohan, it's okay. We can wait. We can wait. They just could not believe that I would want to feed my daughter in a moving vehicle. And they couldn't believe that anyone would ever do that, let alone someone that you love. So what I recommend we do is when you think about eating food, actually make it an occasion. Even if it's a snack, it's okay to snack. French don't really snack, but even if it's a snack, just put it on a plate and sit down and eat it intentionally. Really powerful when we do that. And the last thing around that French attitude is the French don't like diets. Diets are régime. They don't like régime. What they do like is to faire attention, which means to pay attention. And so just to pay attention to what you're eating, and actually got to eat guilt-free as well. Have as much as feels good, eat till you say 75% full rather than over full. Just pay attention to what you're eating and know that if there's a big celebration coming up, Christmas Day, for example, staff parties, for example, know that that's coming up and look forward to it and enjoy that delicious food, but just keep things balanced out either side. Perhaps you have a smaller breakfast or a lighter dinner, or perhaps you go for an extra walk. Just actually let it balance. There's a word association done with the word chocolate cake, where most Americans said guilt, that when they heard the word chocolate cake, they thought guilt, and most French people thought celebration. So if I come to your doorstep with a chocolate cake, I would hope that you would go, wow, Lauren, what are we celebrating? This is going to be delicious. Because it makes me sad when I hear clients saying, eating their chocolate cake, oh, I really shouldn't eat this. And so we need to free ourselves up from that guilt. So that's another whole big topic. But as I say, I'll send you some info. I'll send you out. I've got a shortened excerpt from this book that I'm really happy to send you. And it's around that sensational seller blueprint. So I'll send that through. And as I say, if anyone's keen to get the book, feel free. Really just invite you to think about, again, what are your default settings? How can you make it more easy to have good food available? Can you prep your salads for the week? Can you learn to make a great vinaigrette in a jar so you've got sensational salads ready for the week? Or maybe you have the vinaigrette at the office and you just bring in something to make into a salad on the spot. So critical because everything we eat affects how we feel really directly. Okay, and the last thing that I want to talk about, I realize I'm right on 1 o'clock, so apologies I haven't quite wrapped up everything I want to share within the hour, but hold on with me for this one because this is really good. Number 3, and then we'll have about 20 minutes of Q&A time. Is that okay? So number 3 is to add in positive movement. And the reason I use the word movement is there's this other word I could use, and perhaps I will, but I know it's not that popular a word, and it's almost some people sort of think of it like a dirty word, so hopefully it's okay to share this with you. But I'd really like to talk about this thing called exercise. Is that okay? Now, the reason that I'm a little bit hesitant to use the word exercise is that as soon as you say the word exercise, most people's minds will jump to thinking, oh, is that thing that I should do more of. Are you with me? It's this thing that I should do more of, or I'm not doing enough of, things like that. And so that saddens me because exercise has, again, so many benefits. Oh my goodness, it's like your fountain of youth. It's the thing that makes you biologically younger, stronger, it extends your longevity, increases your health, your well-being, your mental health. Again, I could do a list of many more than 12 things, right? But the challenge is that there's this barrier. And people have told me over the last 20 years, the biggest reason they don't exercise is they don't have enough. Can you guess? Do you want to type it in the chat for me? People tell me over and over again, the only reason they don't exercise, yes, is they don't have enough time, right? Thank you for that. So my philosophy is to snack on exercise. Just in short bursts you can easily fit into your day. Okay, because if I was to ask you if you are busy right now, I've asked this of many audiences, and I generally have between 80 to 95% of the audience will raise their hand. But then when I ask a second question, I ask, raise your hand if you brush your teeth every day. What I found is that 100% of the audience will raise their hand, right? So isn't it interesting that even when we're busy, we still find time to brush our teeth? And if that's 2 minutes morning and night, what if you could find 4 little minutes, not just to look after this small part of your body, but to look after your entire body? What if you could snack on exercise just for 4 minutes a day? And it doesn't even have to be 4 minutes in a row. It could be 1 minute when you wake up, and 1 minute mid-morning, and 1 minute at lunchtime, and 1 in the afternoon. So this is exactly what I shared about in my TED Talk, and I'll just give you a shortened version of that. Do encourage you if you want to check out the whole talk. The thing is, there are so many different ways you can snack on exercise. You could literally get up from your desk and just do a little desk workout. Just do some squat reaches at your desk. You could have a dance party. You could go for a lap around the office or around your house or up and down the stairs. While the kettle is boiling, you could do some push-ups on the kitchen counter. It's one of my favorites. Find something that you love doing and fit that in, even just for 30 seconds or a minute. So I want to just share why this might be helpful, because again, you might be thinking, what's that going to do, Laura? Like 4 minutes, surely won't make a difference, right? But actually the studies show us how beneficial short bursts of activity can be. So it really works. There was one study done by McMaster University where they had 2 groups of people cycling on a stationary bike. Have you seen those, like spin bikes? They had a steady group who cycled for 50 minutes continuously, and they cycled 3 times a week. They had another group who did sprints. So they went flat out for just 20 seconds. Can you picture that? So 20 seconds sprinting, and they did 3 little sprints with a warm up and a cool down. So it was a total of 10 minutes. And they also trained 3 times a week. And what the researchers found when they compared the results in terms of fat loss, cardiovascular fitness, muscle adaptation, and insulin sensitivity was the results were virtually identical. Virtually identical. Okay, which is phenomenal when you think that the steady group trained for 5 times as long, and the sprinting group actually only did 1 minute of real effort. So this just shows us the benefits we can get. And there are so many other studies, some that have been done with cardiac rehab patients, people of all ages, that all show the benefits of small amounts of movement. It doesn't have to be on a stationary bike. They also did it with a set of stairs, and they got people to briskly walk up stairs for 20 seconds. And again, they found that it significantly increased fitness. So really critical, the difference it can make. It also helps to combat the risk of a sedentary lifestyle. Can I do a lot with a lot of businesses that have knowledge workers, okay, like yourselves, where often we are spending a lot of our time at a desk or at a computer. And the challenge is that we know the stats now show us that sitting is the new smoking. Have you heard this? That having a sedentary lifestyle, which is defined as 6 or more hours of sitting, increases morbidity and mortality more than smoking does. Or in other words, if you sit for extended periods, you're more likely to get seriously ill earlier and to die younger. And that remains true even if you exercise at other times. That doesn't undo all the negatives of the ongoing sitting. So the bottom line is that it's going to help to improve your fitness. It's going to overcome that challenge of sitting, and it's going to help to improve your mood and your mental health. Okay, when you move your body, it instantly changes how you feel. Can I invite you actually right now, let's just get up and do something. I know you've got your cameras off, so this is going to be even easier, but can I just trust that you'll join in with me for this? Can I invite you to stand up wherever you are? If you're in the office, maybe just get your colleagues to help you. If you're at home, this will be even easier. Just invite you to stand up wherever you are. Make sure you're doing that right now. And just going to invite you just to move your body just for 30 seconds. Is that all right? So wherever you are, make sure you're standing up. This is not a spectator sport. Are you with me? Okay, so you're standing up. Just invite you to reach up high and then reach down. Reach higher and then reach lower. So that again. So reach high, reach low, come into a little squat, just a gentle one. So just looking after whatever feels comfortable for you, looking after your own hips, legs, back, everything beautiful. Oh, somebody even sharing their camera. I love that. Thank you. All right, so let's speed that up. This is called a squat reach, and it's just the most uplifting thing you can do. Because again, you're lifting your arm into that awesome elation position, right? So 2 more. Nice. And let's do some uppercuts. So do some rolling uppercuts. Whoa. Show me some energy. You got it? All right, and then a jog on the spot. So fast feet, jog your feet for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in, stretch up, and breathe it out. And relax it off. Beautiful. Now, thank you to everyone that just did that. Can I invite you to type in the chat, how are you feeling now? This is perhaps the most important thing today. How are you feeling now? Just go ahead and type a word in or a few words. Catherine's feeling more awake. Love it. Adrian's energized and refreshed. Penny is good. Estelle's feeling better. Someone at St. John's said that it made them smile. Love it. Energized, refreshed, happy. Beautiful. So thank you for giving that a go, everyone that did. So the thing is that when you move your body, it instantly changes how you feel. You've just made yourself smarter. So I bet you're saying, oh, I can feel that. Serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. So you've just actually not only made yourself smarter and refreshed yourself, helped you to focus, you've boosted your creativity, your potential for innovation, for creative thought. You've boosted your problem-solving ability. It always surprises me that we go into problem-solving meetings and all sit down, right? So I'm really passionate, as you can tell, about this idea of integrating movement into our days, micro movement into the workplace. Because if we can create a snack on exercise culture in your workplace, will transform how people feel, how they work, how they show up, and ultimately give you better, more innovative answers to solutions, better problem solving, better systems, flow onto everything, and make you happy. Hey. So just encourage you to try that out, because number 4, perhaps most of all, you can stick with this for life. What you do at age 27 might be different to what you do at age 72, but there's always something you can do in 30, 60 seconds to just be able to snack on exercise, and micro movement can have this amazing flow on. This is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I shared this on Facebook a little while ago. That recent studies have proven that actually exercising is better at proving your fitness than just liking a picture of someone else exercising. Alrighty, so as I start to head towards wrapping up, I'm going to transition over into a time of answering your questions for these last 20 minutes. I just wanted to recap, first of all, these 5 Live Well principles. As I said, I know that I've shared a lot with you, rapid fire, both today and over the last 2 sessions. And so just recapping, obviously we've not looked at all of these 30 pillars, but these are all really critical. And again, it's so important to look at that knowledge action gap. How can you apply this for yourself? And how can you lead change in your organization? How can you help your organization to make this the norm? So if you want to find out more about that, if you haven't already, I'd love to send you out a copy of my book. It's called 5 Keys to a Positive, Energized, High Performance Culture. So go ahead and type in the chat. If you want to just type in your name and email, you can do it in the private chat as well. So where it has everyone a little arrow, just click that and click on my name. And just message me your name and email, and I would love to, as I say, send this out to you. I'll also send you links to some of the other resources and TED Talks that I've mentioned, and I'll send you out that excerpt of my sensational seller blueprint. Okay, I think it's about 20 pages from this book, so happy to send that out to you. Thank you. I can see those are coming through. So as I say, if you want to do the private chat, just use that drop down and then it direct messages me. Yeah, awesome. I can see that's working. So yeah, just pop in your name and email, and I would love to send that out to you. And I also have weekly updates. Should say this. I have weekly updates, so it'll join you in, so you're staying in the loop with my weekly updates to boost your health and well-being. And love to stay in touch with you for that. Wonderful. Someone's also just asked in the chat. Yes, I do in-house sessions, so I don't have any more availability this year, but really happy to connect with anyone if you'd like to line up something for your team in-house for the new year. Just reach out to me, just message me. Really happy to connect, and would love to, either virtually or in person. I do travel. Love to connect and support your team as well. So thank you so much. So I'm just going to open up now for you. So, oh yes, I'll talk about the emotional culture cards. Yeah, I'll put a link in as well. Just have a bit of a chat and I can show you a bit more about the emotional culture deck. So if you just Google emotional culture deck, you'll find them. You can actually download this for free, but I'll include that link as well later on. So if you want to reach out to me, those are my contact details there. Do feel free, do please connect on LinkedIn. It's always nice connecting with new faces. and I share inspirational content on LinkedIn every day. I know it might sound counterintuitive because I'm saying watch your social media. I don't spend a lot of time on there, but if I do comment, it is me commenting. I have my team post every day. I plan the content, but if you see me comment, it is always me. So do feel free to connect in. I've also got a podcast, which is called the Thrive TV Show. And we've just done a great episode on burnout and a great session on resilience with Mark Black, who's an amazing man from Canada. He's the only man in the world to have run a marathon with someone else's heart and lungs. So he's a full heart and lung transplant survivor and just an incredible guy that I got to meet through the Canadian Speakers Association when I was living there. And so got to interview him. That interview just came out last week. So tune into that for some awesome inspiration from Mark Black. Wonderful. Thank you for all of the emails coming through. I'm going to sort through those now. And just, yeah, this is the emotional culture sheet that I talked about. We might have a play with that. But first, I just want to come back to you and answer your questions. So if you have a question, what's really helpful is if you just put capital Q and then a dash and then add your question in the chat, because it's also nice to hear from you if you've got comments as well. But hopefully Brianna will help me as well with just seeing if there are any questions. Or if you've got a question and I haven't spotted it, just repost it in there now. So it's at the bottom. Yeah. All right. So I have found a question. So I'm going to start with this one because it's in front of me. So thanks for this. And also, if it's a question that you don't want to ask and have me mention your name, just private message it to me, like this one is, and I won't say who's actually asked it. So if you've got a question you want it to be anonymous, that's fine too. So someone said, any recommendation on micro movement videos that we could do as a work group? Thank you for asking that. Yes. One idea is that if you do head to Facebook/snack on exercise, okay, snack on exercise, and click on the videos tab if you know how to find that. So on a Facebook page, there's actually a videos tab, which has all of the past videos. And there are lots of little 1 and 2 minute videos that amazing fitness professionals from all around the world have contributed. So I'd highly recommend, and I've screened them all. So those are all ones that I recommend. There's a whole lot there, from restorative, gentle ones to high energy ones to ones you can do outdoors, at the office, on the go. So that would probably be my best place to start. Or just Google snack on exercise, and from there you can link through to the Facebook page, click under videos, and you'll find those there. That'd be a great place to start. I've got some resources on my website as well if you're interested in purchasing some actual printed posters or resources or circuit cards. Feel free to check those out. Yeah, Leonie's asked about the emotional culture card, so I'll include the link for that. Any other questions? I'm just going up. Okay, I can see I've got 2 new messages. Let me jump down to the bottom again. Oh, you're very welcome. Lovely. Very good. Oh, thank you, Brianna's just posted in the link to, I'm assuming that's the link to the Thrive TV show on our podcast. Wonderful. Or else you can, if you're on Spotify or iTunes or Apple Podcasts, just Google Thrive TV show. Nice. Someone said this really resonates with our new corporate wellness program that you're launching. That's awesome. And you're getting a lot of these tips. Oh, that's great. Very cool to hear. Nice. Any questions? Really keen to answer your questions about anything. Okay, anything about resilience, anything related to what I've shared. Yes, thanks, Brenna. That's the Thrive TV link. Thank you, Penny. Appreciate you being here and taking the time. Any other questions? Otherwise, perhaps I can, if you'd like, I can introduce you to the emotional culture deck for the last 15 minutes. Any other questions or things I haven't missed, Brianna?
Yeah, kia ora everyone. I just wanted to jump on quickly and say a big thank you to Lauren on behalf of ILANZ. We've learned quite a lot off you, shared a lot of your knowledge over the past 3 webinars, and I've been getting up nice and early every morning to go for a walk, so that's been helping since I did your last webinar. I just wanted to let everyone know that the session has been recorded, so we'll be sending it out to everyone after this, along with all of the notes that Lauren's been talking about and links to everything as well. If you know anyone that's missed it, we'll be sending it off to them as well, so don't worry about that. In the meantime, just post any of your questions and we'll leave it with Lauren to close it off as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks, Brianna. Just had one question, that's another one that's come in. We're asking about the trans fats that I mentioned. Oh, Claire, I just unmuted. There we go. Here we go. So someone just asked about trans fats and said, does that include butter and milk? So trans fats are actually the highly heated, hydrogenated, man-made fats. So they're more the things in a whole lot of whole lot of processed man-made products. So it's more things like you'll find them in a lot of muesli bars and some cereals and a whole lot of like pre-prepared meals, just a whole range of things. If you look under trans fats, you'll often see whether they are or aren't mentioned in the nutritional label there. So I'm all good with butter and all good with milk. To me, they are real food. So, and just in saying this is not specific nutrition advice for one person. This is more generalized, obviously, because everyone's a little bit different and there'll be certain things that do and don't work well for you and your body. I'm very anti-diet and prescriptive, like you must eat this and you must avoid this, because I think the challenge is as soon as you say, oh, I'm not allowed to eat this, then your body wants it more. Okay, psychologically, if you say, oh, I'm not allowed to eat chocolate, I'm not going to eat chocolate, I'm not going to eat chocolate, it's like your brain is screaming out, all I want is chocolate. And so you'll actually desire it more. As soon as you try to have a deprivation mentality, it's counterintuitive. Yeah, any other questions? Oh, here we go, there's another one. Someone's saying, I'm a resilient person, but I find that I'm being tested at the moment. Yes, yeah, really acknowledge that. I think I shared it in the session on stress and anxiety and during uncertainty. Totally the norm. I found last year I actually went into quite a tailspin of just feeling exhausted for quite a period of weeks. And here I am, someone who teaches about resilience, and yet it was really affecting me. So got to remember that your brain is always scanning the world looking for regular patterns. And when you don't see those regular patterns, it's a real challenge to us. And we see it hits us at a visceral level because we feel unsafe. So that is normal for us to be not feeling at our best. Not that that necessarily helps in and of itself, but it is helpful to know that. And the best way that I'll say to replenish is identify what are the things that fill your bucket of resilience. So if you think of resilience as a big bucket, there are certain things you can do that fill it. And it might be walking on the lawn. It might be having your favorite hot beverage mindfully. It might be getting outdoors for a walk. It might be having 4-second hugs with your loved ones. It might be just writing down something you're grateful for. So you'll know the sort of things for you. It'll be different for everyone. But find 1 or 2, maybe 3 things that are your daily non-negotiable that you lock into place and that you practice every day to bring you back to feeling great. Now remember that your body is designed to deal with massive amounts of stress. Okay, if you haven't already watched the last replay of that stress session, and you'll understand that, that's quite reassuring really. Your body's designed to deal with stress. We just need to oscillate out of it. And the number one way to do that is to breathe diaphragmatically. Okay, so watch the stress session for the info on that. And just have whatever is your daily non-negotiable. And think about how do you choose to respond. Mark Black in his interview, is the guy that talked about resilience recently, he said it's how do we shorten the gap between oh no and now what? It's like, oh no, this has happened. And we can spend a lot of time going through a lot of emotions, getting stuck here, or we can move through that into, okay, now what? And the sooner that we can go from oh no to now what, the more we can bounce back. Jodie's just asked, yeah, any tips to boost energy in the short term? That's often the biggest challenge. Yeah, yes, exactly. So I think the things I've talked about, what you're eating, if you can be combining together high quality real foods and combining protein with your carbohydrates to give you good physical energy through the day. If you're eating just predominantly one food group on its own, it gives you that spike more readily. You may be familiar with that. So you want to combine together the carbs and the proteins so that, if you're having, I don't know, not just a piece of fruit, have a piece of fruit and some nuts, something like that, so that it's just giving you that nice balanced, slow energy release. Snacking on exercise throughout the day, doing things throughout your day in little bursts that actually boost your energy, and having those mini breaks, recharging. Did I talk about I don't know if I talked about, I'll send you the link to my 101 minute cycle, which is where you do 25 minutes, you set your countdown timer in your phone or device, 25 minutes focused work, and then a 3-minute movement break, and then 25 minutes focused work, and then a 3-minute movement break. And then a third round, 25 minutes focused work, and then a 20-minute brain break, which is where you relax. Maybe you do something relaxing, like maybe if your filing's relaxing or something, the change of state, or ideally if you just take a break and recline. That'll charge you up so you're ready for the next upswing in your body's natural energy rhythm. Okay, we naturally have a 90-minute upswing and a 20-minute downswing. So if you use that, I call it my 101 minute cycle, 3 rounds of 25 minutes on and a 3-minute movement break, and then a 20-minute brain break. So I'll send you the link to an article where I explain that in full, because I know I've just thrown that at you. Yep, that's good if that's helpful. Wonderful. Yeah, so I think that's key. And obviously long-term wellbeing relates back to everything we do day to day. So I'd say, again, everything comes back to your day to day. Wonderful. Give me a yes in the chat if you would like to hear more about the emotional culture deck, if you'd like me to screen share and show you what this little tool is and these cards. Yes, I've got one yes so far. Yes, I've got two. Okay, shall I do that? This is just something that's fun, but usually hugely beneficial from a stress management point of view in so many ways. So as I say, it was created by Jeremy Dean, who is a professional cricketer and now founder of Riders and Elephants. And it's a stack of, predominantly the deck is made up of these black and white cards. And as you can see on the screen now, the black cards are a whole range of different feelings. These are what we call the pleasant feelings. So things like delighted, grateful, appreciated, involved, supported, encouraged, connected, secure. So if you just think back over the last week or so at work, perhaps you could pick a word or two of a way that you felt over the last week. Just invite you to see if you can pick a word. I'm just going to do this really quick today. See how this goes. And have you got a word? Hope you got a word. Just jot it down, whatever the word is. And then there's also this stack of white cards, okay, which is things like maybe feeling anxious or overwhelmed or disheartened or hesitant or embarrassed or incapable. These, as you can tell, are more unpleasant feelings, but they're also ways that we often feel from time to time. And so, again, just invite you to reflect for yourself, what's a way that you've perhaps felt over the last week? Just pick a word or two. And we don't have a lot of time, and I know we're in a dynamic here where not everyone knows one another, but even just a self-reflection, that's really powerful. What I'd normally do in a workshop is invite people to look at that and to look at, what are their black card and white card words, and then just to share them. So for example, you might say, well, actually, I've been feeling really restless and uncertain this week with everything that's going on and all of the changes, and this is how I've been feeling because of that. And perhaps at the same time, I felt quite curious and quite optimistic about how it's going to be. I'm just sort of giving you an example. What this does is it's really powerful to get your colleagues, for example, to share this with one another. I work with a lot of leaders and teach them how to use it in their one-on-ones and also in team meetings. Because often we come into a team meeting and everyone's bringing all these different feelings with them, but we don't acknowledge that. And so what's powerful is when we ask, how do we want our people to feel? And so we also work through a process of using the deck to actually define what's the top 5 ways that I want to feel. So for example, I know that for me, I need to feel energized and inspired and courageous and empathetic and joy. And if I feel those 5 things, then I'll be doing my best work. But for everyone, it's different. So as I say, I'm not trying to sell you anything here, because this is a free tool you can download. Just head to Emotional Culture Deck and you can download your own lo-fi PDF. You can print it out, cut it all out. It's a bit of arts and crafts, or of course you can purchase the decks. But such a powerful tool for self-reflection, to ask yourself, how am I feeling? And then how do I want to feel? Okay, and so again, you can use it for a positive intention setting to think, okay, how do I want to feel today? Maybe I want to feel courageous. Maybe I want to feel optimistic. Maybe I want to feel daring or inspired or compassionate, whatever it is. So powerful for self-reflection, to acknowledge how you're feeling, because we know that there's this thing called, when we name it to tame it. So especially these white card words, which can be more confronting, but let's say, rather than saying, oh, I am anxious, I can actually look at this card and go, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now. Okay, what's driving that? Why am I feeling anxious? Okay, what can I do about it? Actually acknowledging it is really powerful. Or it might be that I feel quite disheartened right now, and I can express that. When we express how we're feeling, that's the number 1 step to regulating that feeling. Okay, Mark Brackett, M-A-R-C, if you want to look it up, Mark Brackett, in his book, Permission to Feel, he talks about the ruler process. And the R is for recognizing your emotions, the U is for understanding, L is labeling, E is expressing, and the R is regulating. So when you can identify and express your emotion, like saying, oh, I'm feeling disheartened, that's the prelude to actually regulating your emotions. And as a leader, as a human being, actually, this is key, because this is all about really emotional intelligence. So I just thought some of you might be interested in that, because, as I say, fantastic tool, one, to help you in challenging times, to recognize how you're feeling and help regulate those emotions. Really powerful to come up with, what are the top 5 ways that you want to feel, for example. And then also for teams, I work through a process to define, what is your team culture going to look like? How do you want your team to feel? Because the way people feel impacts on everything they do, impacts on how motivated they are, how committed they are to the organization, how they show up. It impacts on hard measures such as absenteeism and staff turnover. Okay, really critical. We're hearing about the big resignation right now. So yeah, I work through with teams and we map out onto this sort of a canvas. Okay, we want our team to feel inspired, proud, connected, confident, and at ease. And we don't want them to feel alienated, confused, doubt, inferior, alone. And then we think about what are the actions and rituals that will cultivate that culture. So just a really great tool that I recommend. If you're interested, feel free to check that out. And as I say, very powerful for yourself. Let's just close by inviting you to just pick what's a word there that describes a way that you want to feel today. Can I invite you to pick a word and type it in the chat as we close up today and as we head into December, because setting a positive intention is incredibly powerful. The way you start your day often determines the outcome of your entire day, right? Have you noticed that? So I talked last session about setting that positive intention in the morning. How do you want to show up for the day? Okay, pick a word and speak it out or type it out right now. Really powerful. Thank you for the words coming through. I'm just going to have a look at these. Okay, so we've got people that are going to feel encouraged, calm, joy, energized, inspired, energized, grateful, thoughtful, rebellious. Yes, well done, Mia. Good noticing. There's 3 words actually: rebellious, restless, and uncomfortable are in both colours. And that's because people were picking them from the white card deck and saying, I want to feel uncomfortable, or I want to feel a bit restless or be rebellious. Yeah, nice. Joy, attentive, energized, involved. Think about how that feels when you focus in on that. Now, if you go into your day thinking, I'm going to feel that way, I'm going to feel that joy, that energy, that inspiration, then you're much more likely for that to happen. And it's a really quick way to, one, acknowledge how you're feeling and then choose where you want to go with how you're feeling. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope that this has given you these keys to help you boost your mental resilience. Remember to focus on what you can control and what you can influence, to choose what's helpful, not harmful in the moment, to limit your social media consumption, to really focus on what you're feeding your thoughts, to let go of catastrophizing by using facts and faith, to protect your sleep. You know, right now, get a head outdoors in 1 minute and get that sunlight into your eyes, to make sure that you're nourishing yourself, set yourself up for good nourishment, and snack on exercise, boost your joy. Feel free to share this with others around you, help to spread the positive ripple. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Really, really appreciate you being here. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes, so feel free to just let me know how you found that in the chat. And any other final questions, if I haven't had a chance to answer them, then just message me and I'll get back to you. But just close by saying kia kaha, kia maia, kia mana wanu. Be strong, be steadfast, be willing. My final tip for what people sometimes think of as the stressful Christmas season is just picture it as being calm, relaxed Christmas, and it'll be much more likely to be that way for you. So thank you all. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Ka kite anō. See you next time.